covenant relationship. A covenant relationship, that's when we have to carry ourselves a certain way. We have to carry ourselves a certain way. We have to present ourselves a certain way because we represent somebody greater than, you know what I'm saying? We're greater than we ourselves. And the nation of Yashra'al is very important because let me tell y'all something. I would feel mighty bad to be on the outside looking in. Here it is, Mashiyach entering into marriage with his bride. And we're not even at the wedding or at the marriage supper. But you got outsiders who are on the outside. Now all of a sudden, they're part of the wedding party and all of that. They're protecting us. And that's what we have to be careful of. That's why I talk about these things so much and keep reminding you, you can't just turn this on when you get ready. Do anything, live how you want to be, any kind of way, then all of a sudden at the last minute you want to, okay, look, we get in line. Then all of a sudden you walk and you want to walk on straight street. It does not work like that. Because let me tell y'all something. What did he say about the righteous? They're going to scarcely make it by the what? Skin of their teeth. When the last time you checked your teeth? To see how much, so you know, let me tell you something. You even to walk up in there that easy. Because it calls for something. It calls for a lifestyle of giving up, a lifestyle of sacrificing. There's a lot of things we desire to do or like to do. But because of who we are, being a set-apart people, guess what we choose to do? Not do it. That's the reason why we in here on Shabbat. Don't y'all know I would love to be down there between the hedges and Georgia Bulldog. Shoot. But because Yahuah said this is his set-apart day, guess where I am? I'm in a set-apart place with set-apart people, the people that I love and hold most dearly to me. And I look forward to this. I'm meant to tell y'all something. I look forward to seeing y'all. When I tell you I look forward to coming here on Shabbat, because I'm around these strangers and stuff all week long. Not that they're bad people that I'm around. It's just a difference being around like-minded people, people who think the way you think, people who walk the way you walk, talk your language. You know what I'm saying? So, remind yourself all the time and keep in your remembrance that you are a covenant people in a covenant relationship. Your whole walk and everything you're doing now is based upon a covenant because you're trying to enter what? Into a marriage with someone. It is very important. That's the whole purpose of Mashiyach returning, to do what? Receive his bride. To marry her and then have what? The marriage supper. So with all that being in our future, that lets you know the nation of Yashra'al what? Is still betrothed, but she hasn't been married. She's what? The marriage hasn't been finalized or consummated. So that means that any part of the nation of Yashra'al could be what? Disqualified at any time. That's why he told her, what did he tell his apostles, It says, but he said, occupy until what? He comes, until he returns. Find yourself. When he comes, he said what? May he find you what? Working. Doing. And that's what we're supposed to be doing. And what kind of work is he talking about?
Law, statutes, and commandments.
Say it again,
Law, statutes, and commandments.
Law, statutes, and commandments. Somebody else say.
Harvest.
Harvest, because all of it comes what? It falls under the same thing. And that's why when we go into these set apart festivals or our feast days, it's very important that we don't look at them as physical feasts. we have to understand that prophecy. That's why me and more reconcilable, we try to break down the prophetic meaning behind all of these things. But all of the festivals, they lead to what? A marriage. The festivals on this side which have been fulfilled, the festivals on this side which are being fulfilled, they all lead to that what? That second or middle candlestick, which is the union between Mashiyach and the nation of Yashra'al and the marriage.
Right.
You know that's why you have 7 candlesticks on the right? Because there are 7 festivals.
Right.
Each festival is a prophet that leads to what? A marriage.
Yes.
So that's very important. So when we go Sukkot coming up, we're going to deal with that and see the importance of it and see how they relate to Mashiyach and the nation of Yashra'al. How much time I got? 20 minutes? Okay, good. Let's go to Bereshit, the first chapter, verse 28, 29, and 30. Go ahead, so Aki, what's your Hebrew name again, Frank?
Ariana.
Ariana.
Yeah.
We're going to ask you to get that for Bereshit or Genesis. Huh?
Oh, shit, no, well, there she is.
Genesis. Bereshit or Genesis, the first chapter, 28, 29, and 30. Verses 28, 29, and 30.
Genesis, first chapter, 28 verse. And Elohim blessed them. And Elohim said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And Elohim said, behold, I have given you every herb, bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat, and it was so. And Elohim saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the 6th day.
Hallelujah. Now, we read that. We see that there's a covenant made with Adam in Eden. Now, with that covenant, we see after all of this were presented to Adam, we can find out and see where he broke this agreement. Let's go to Hosea 6, verse 7. Shall you get that for me? Hosea 6, verse 7. Read it loud enough for the camera people.
Okay. Hosea 6, verse 7. But they, like men, have transgressed the covenant. There have they dealt treacherously against me.
Okay, say it, read it again.
But they, like men, have transgressed the covenant. There have they dealt treacherously against me.
Okay, so when we see this, when you read that, it reads, but they like men have transgressed the covenant. There have they dealt treacherously against me. When you go look up that word men, somebody tell me what word you're going to get. Adam. Adam. So when we look at this, Adam transgressed a covenant. Now, when we look at this Edenic covenant, we see that the participants of this covenant were who? The participants of the Edenic covenant were who? Huh? Why y'all whispering? Thank you. Adam and Yahuah. Why Adam and Yahuah? Say it again. I said, why Adam and Yahuah?
First man, first. He made the first covenant, and but I don't quite get so
So they were they were the only two in the garden at the time.
That's what I said.
It was a trick question, just so to get you to think. Okay then. Now, when you read all of what we have just read, Genesis or Bereshit, the 2nd chapter, verse 15 through 17. This is why it's very important to pay attention to what you read. We see that there's a covenant that he has entered into with Adam or Adam. But in that covenant, there are provisions. How many provisions are in that covenant? I'm going to help you out. 7. Let's look at it. Genesis 1 and 28. First man was told what? Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. That's the first provision in the Edenic covenant. The second provision that man was told to what? Subdue the earth. Why was man told to subdue the earth? Because before Adam had been given, or man had been given the authority to subdue the earth, who was the earth in the hands of? Shaitan. Okay then. The third provision is what? Man was given what? Dominion over all living things. The fourth provision was what? Concerning man's what? Die. And up until this time, what was man? They were vegetarians. They were not permitted to eat meat at that time. Matter of fact, blood was not even permitted to be shed at that time. Y'all notice I said at that time? Yes. Men were not what? Permitted to eat meat. The fifth provision is what? Men was directed to what? Dress and keep the garden. What was the beauty about dressing and keeping the garden at this time? At this time, because man had not what? Sinned or transgressed or broken the covenant, the earth yielded itself on its own. It yielded its own fruit. Man didn't have to do what? Any kind of toil.
Love that.
Which those days are back. The sixth provision was that man was what? Forbidden to what? Eat from the tree of what? Knowledge of good and evil. And the seventh provision was what? It contained a penalty for disobedience, which was death. Now, you have a lot of theologians that say, even though the Most High said if they ate from that tree that they would surely die. They said, well, Adam didn't die. I said, he lived right on. Did he die?
Yes.
He was separated. Yeah, he separated. And he died.
Yep.
Because before the transgression, how long did Adam live? Or how long was he supposed to live? Forever. Didn't the Most High say, 1,000 years is as a day to him, and a day is as 1,000 years? Y'all know Adam didn't make a whole day? He didn't make a whole day. He surely died just like the Father said he would. When you go to living from where you're supposed to be here eternally, forever, then all of a sudden, you don't make 1,000 years? He didn't live when he died the same day. And not only that, and from his death, even being passed down to us, we're called what? Descendants.
Yeah.
Because from that moment on, we descend. No one ever goes above where he was. We descend. That's why you never have anybody make 1,000 years. Methuselah fell short of what? 1,000 years. Nobody makes it. Nobody lived what he called a day. But when he come revitalize, rejuvenate, and resurrect us, not when we walk and obtain our set-apart bodies that he's going to give us, but even before that time, what did he say? We'll go back to living as trees? And he said to be 100 years old, well, to be as being a baby? This is something he has to restore. But you see, with Adam, what did we say was the punishment for disobedience or not fulfilling agreement? Okay? The punishment is death. I don't care what covenant we go to, when we see the disobedience, or those that are conditional, the punishment is death. Okay, so now we see the 7 provisions of the Edenic covenant. Let's look at the status of that covenant. Somebody get 3, 1, and 8. Bereshit, the 3rd chapter, verse 1 through 8. You got that? Yeah. Okay, you go ahead.
Bereshit 3 and 1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which Yahuah Elohim had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, have Elohim said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim hath said, shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest ye die.
Okay, we can see that that covenant was what? The status of that covenant what? It's been broken.
Right.
Now, let's look at something. Now, we see when Shaitan appeared in the garden, he was already in what condition? He was in a fallen state, right?
Right.
He had already fallen. Now, what we can also notice that sin was present because it was in Shaitan. But that creature, or the created one, Adam, he was created perfectly. Sin was not in man yet. Okay. So when we look at this, although we see these things, we have to see that. Look at Shaitan and what he does in the garden. And now let's read some. Let's go to 1 John 2 and 16. Because when we look at the garden, you're going to see that Adam was tempted in 3 different areas. And let's read 1 John 2 and 16. And Akoti Korah, if you would get Genesis 3 and 6. I know Rob again just read it. Bereshit, Genesis 3 and 6. Who got 1 John 2 and 16? Okay, go ahead.
For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, and the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world.
Okay, stop right there. He said, read that again.
For all that is in the world,
For all that is in the world,
the lust of the flesh,
the lust of the flesh,
and the lust of the eyes,
and the lust of the eyes,
and the pride of life,
the pride of life,
is not of the Father,
is not of the Father,
but is of the world.
but is of the world. Bereshit 3 and 6.
And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food.
Stop right there. And when the woman what? Saw that the tree was good for food. Is that not lust of what? Okay, then go ahead.
And it was pleasant to the eyes, and the tree to be desired to make one wise. She took of the fruit thereof, and did eat it, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat it.
Okay then. Let's go to 2 and 16. 1 John 2 and 16 is the lust of the flesh. Then we went to Bereshit 3 and 6. It said the same thing. You see the lust of the eyes. And then when you see Genesis 3 and 6, it said that tree was what? To be desired to make one wise. All of this corresponds to what? 1 John 2 and 16. All of it has to do with what? The pride of life. And that's something serious right there. The pride of life. Now, when we get back into the Torah portions, we're going to deal with something. How many of y'all have heard about Leviathan and Behemoth?
Yes.
Yeah. Is Behemoth a literal monster?
Is that the one in Job?
Huh?
Is that the one in Job? Supposedly, it's, from my understanding, it's supposed to have been the dragon that went around the ship and the sank the ship and then went out to sea.
Have y'all ever heard the phrase and heard somebody say, God bless America and no one else?
Right. Yep.
When we deal with Behemoth, you're going to see that Behemoth is a conglomerate of nations. And it's the pride of the nations. And this is what he's bringing down. It's no different from Mizraim and Egypt. What was Egypt, Mizraim's pride? Was it not its deities
Right.
who they thought sustained them? And when we look at Mizraim, we see the Most High strategically attack each deity. Do y'all know each plague represented a deity that he was bringing down? Every plague represented one of their deities who they put all their trust in. The Most High was bringing each one of those deities down. That's the same thing he's doing in this nation and these nations around the world. These same deities are still erect throughout the earth today. Never mind them calling by other names because of language barriers and the changes in language and all. They're still the same deity. And that's what he's doing now, bringing down the pride of these nations. That's what Behemoth is the pride of the nations. we're going to stop right there. We will pick back up on part 3 of the covenant as soon as Morika Sadabah get through his teaching. So, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.